Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do the buttonhole sample. So I've put the interfacing on, I've serged around the edge, and I folded it in half. Okay, so this next step, really important so that you don't sew it together. So you're going to unfold your fabric so that you're working on this side right here, because what you're going to be doing is sewing buttons on here so that it will button up. So that's why you want to have it single so that you can make your buttonholes just in this part. Okay, so we have to remember what the buttonhole formula is. And the buttonhole formula is the diameter of your button plus the thickness. Okay, so I'm going to measure this one. This one is 1 inch in diameter, and the thickness is 1/8. So that means I want my buttonhole to be 1 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to start on the edge, and I'm going to mark right here on 0, and then 1 1/8 is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get my straight line over here. Okay, then I want to draw my center. So the buttonhole symbol looks kind of like a capital I. Okay, so you do your 2 ends, and then you do your center line, which is your guide on how you're going to do your buttonhole. All right, so then the next thing that we need to do is we need to switch out our presser foot. So on the back of your presser foot, there's a little red button, and you push that and your presser foot comes off. And then you're going to get one of these. This is presser foot 3, or the buttonhole presser foot. It's because it has the extra 3rd prong. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. And there's a couple ways you can do that. You can either just push it right on there, or you can put your presser foot shank down on top of it and it will pick it up. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do is we need to change our stitch to 10, or it's 0 on your keypad. So you push 0 and it will display 10 in the display screen. Okay, so now I'm ready to do my buttonhole. So I'm going to line up the, oh, and this has a bigger area there so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to line it up right with, excuse me, right with the end of my buttonhole. And then I'll go ahead and start that because I just realized I didn't thread my machine, so hold on. Okay, so now I'm ready to do my buttonhole. So I'm going to start right at the end so that I can see where my needle's going to go in. And I'm going to sew the left side first. So I'm starting right up there at the top, and I'm keeping this middle prong on that middle line that I drew. Okay, so it's going to sew the left side. And I'm going to go all the way down to that cross line there at the bottom. Okay, so now I see it, and I'm right on top of it. So I'm going to push the reverse just once. All that does is it tells it to switch to the next step. So I push once, and it's going to do backwards up to the top. So I'm just going to guide it back up to the top, trying to keep it as straight as possible. Whoops, I went a bit too far. There we go. So now I'm going to push reverse again just once to tell it to go to the next step. So now I'm going to the next step, so it does the bar tack on the end and starts doing the right side. Okay, so I just have to keep it straight, and I want it really close to that other side, but not right on top of it. I don't know if you can see the distance that I've got there, but it's really close, because all you need it for is to be able to cut it open for the actual buttonhole. So it needs to be really close, and it's going to overlap. You want to overlap that back stitch that it did up to the top. So we get to the end, and then we push reverse again, and it's going to do the end bar tack, and it's going to do a knot. Okay, so now I am done with my buttonhole. Cut all my threads off, and then I will show you how to open the buttonhole in just a minute, but let me tell you. So then you're going to do 2 more. So you're going to have 3 buttons total, and you'll do another buttonhole here, another buttonhole here, and then once you're done with that, I'll show you how to cut this open and how to figure out where to put your buttons. And remember that when you sew your buttons, you need to sew them with a thread shank, and it shows you how to do that in your instructions in your sample book, and there is a video that shows you how to sew on a button with a shank. So let me show you how to open this up, actually how to line it up first and then open it. All right, all 3 of my buttonholes are made now. And again, just the biggest thing you want to remember is to unfold it first before you do your buttonholes, because if you make your buttonholes through this whole thing, they're pretty much impossible to take out, and you'll have to start over. So just remember, before you start, unfold, okay? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fold it up, because I'm going to show you how to figure out where to put your buttons. So you want your buttons to be in the center of your buttonhole. So the easiest way to do that is just poke a pin through the center of your buttonhole and then pull it back so you can see where the pin is going into your fabric, and then just use some chalk and make a dot or make a mark right there. Okay, so that's where my buttonhole needs to go, or my button needs to go under, so that it's centered under my buttonhole. I'll do the same thing on this one and the same thing on the next one. Okay. All right, so once you have those marked, then we're going to go ahead and open this back up again so that we're only working on this single layer. And there's a couple ways you can open a buttonhole. So one way is to go from the edge to the center with your seam ripper, and then go from the edge to the center. So what I mean is you take your seam ripper and you poke it down into the fabric and you cut it to the center. Okay, and then you come to the other side, poke your seam ripper down in through the fabric. It's a little hard because it's thick, and then cut the rest of that way. Okay. The reason that you don't want to just go from the center out or just the whole thing is because I have done it myself, and I've had several students cut right through the end of their buttonhole. Okay, another thing you can do is you can put a pin right in the end of your buttonhole on each side. Or actually, I'm sorry, you don't need to do it on each side. So you do one pin here, and then you start at the other end, and you poke, make sure you don't poke the seam ripper through your finger, and then just cut toward your pin, and your pin will stop it. Okay, so that's another easy way to do it. So just make sure that you get the pin lined up with the end of your buttonhole, or else you will end up cutting through the end of your buttonhole, because your pin is there to stop the seam ripper. Okay, so we're just going to cut towards the pin. Once it hits the pin, then we know that our buttonhole is opened up. Okay, then you'll go ahead and sew your buttons on, and then you'll button them up. And that's how to do the buttonhole sample.